Hey everybody, Chris here from It's Me Made, and Bambu Studio 2.0 is out. And there are a lot of new features packed into this update. Some of them are directly related to the H2D 3D printer, which isn't out yet, and I don't have one, so we're not going to be covering that today. Instead, I want to focus on the changes that actually matter to the rest of us. Now, these are the updates that you'll actually notice, the ones that make our prints better, and just make the software easier to use. Now, there's quite a bit going on through this, so I am going to do my best to keep this all very short, concise, and to the point. And I'm only going to be covering all of the changes that I think are really important and the things that I think you should know. So that's it. Now, let's go ahead and get into this software. Okay, so the first thing is the new highlight rendering effect. Now when you select parts of your 3D model in Bambu Studio, the software will highlight them with this clear, glow, outliney kind of look. I don't know, it's kind of like a foggy look in my eyes. But this makes it much easier to be able to see exactly what you're working on, and the benefit here is pretty simple. No more guessing or squinting, and you always know which part you have selected or highlighted. Now, I know personally I'm probably going to enjoy this when I have a build plate full of a lot of different pieces and parts. But when you have like one or two, you know, it's a nice little effect, but I think the real use here is when you've got a lot of tiny parts on your build plate. Alright, this next one, I honestly think it might be one of the best things about this update, and this is the consistent gizmo size. And the gizmo is that little thing that pops up when you're in any of your transform tools. So basically, now it stays the same size on your display when you zoom in or out. So basically, it won't shrink, and it grows as you change your view. That means it's always easy to grab and making positioning your model a lot easier and less fiddling around with it. This is just a really nice user-friendly addition. The next one is directly related to overhangs. Bambu Studio now uses a checkerboard pattern to mark overhang areas when you're painting your parts for supports. So if you see a checkerboard pattern, you know that you need supports in that area. Now this is a nice visual cue, but in the past it was just like this red area for critical support areas. But now it's a checkerboard, so I guess you can see it easier. And I guess the checkerboard pattern's nice, but this doesn't address the big issue that I've always had with Bambu Studio that other slicers immediately address by default. And that is instantly showing your overhangs for everything. But you can still have overhangs, it's just not a default setting. And it's not even using this checkerboard pattern. I just wish that they would make this a default setting, no matter if you're supporting something or not, so you can quickly identify whether you need overhangs or you don't need overhangs. For those of you that don't know, you can turn this feature on. Just go to the drop-down menu at the top, click on View, then click on Show Overhangs. But this is not a new feature. I just wanted to kind of show you this so you can at least know where that's at. Alright, that being said, support's got a few upgrades and updates, and I want to walk you through the big changes. I'm not going to go too deep into these details just yet, mostly because I haven't had a chance to fully test everything. So this video is just a heads up, so you know what's new. If you really want a deeper dive into some of these new support features, or any other feature for that matter, just let me know and I can always try to make a separate video for that, but we're going to keep this very surface level right now. So the first thing is the tree support optimization. Tree support's got a pretty nice upgrade. The software now generates these supports to be even more stable and easier to remove. In practice, this means that your supports will do a better job holding up your models while printing, but when the print's done, you're going to be able to get those supports off easier. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You know, strong supports while printing and less hassle afterwards. Now, the one thing I will say on this, I've done some light testing on, 4 or 5 different models, and I can definitely say that I have seen an improvement in the ease of the supports breaking off. But on the other side of that, I did have one that failed, and it was right where the interface is, because there's some new changes with the interfacing, and that's where it broke. And that was a failed print for me. But so far, it's promising, but I still need to do some more testing and play around with this a little more. Now, the next thing is smarter support settings when it comes to support material. So if you use dedicated support material, Bambu Studio 2.0 can now adjust settings automatically for your best results. And what it'll do is it'll add a couple of those slow, extra dense transition layers and suggest using a more sturdy tree support style pattern by default, which is kind of nice. This sounds technical, but the bottom line is better print quality on overhangs and supports that come off cleanly, all without you needing to tweak a bunch of settings manually. And once again, this is what they're saying. I have not actually been able to test this yet, but it does look promising. Alright, so this next one I'm kind of excited about, and we're here, where tree supports are a default. So apparently Bambu Labs did a bunch of testing, and they proved that tree supports overall is just a better support system. So now Bambu Studio uses tree supports as its default support type for any new project. Tree supports usually hold up better for prints, and they pop off a lot easier than the, typical style of supports, or I should say standard style. So unless you change it, the slicer will automatically add tree supports to all of your prints that you add supports to. And with all of these extra changes that they're doing to tree supports, it's supposed to be even better. But once again, I still have some more testing to do with that. Now, the other big feature they're saying is there's better overhang print quality. The software now prints them more cleanly. The way the layers and supports are laid down in those areas have been refined, so the underside of those overhangs come out smoother and the support materials peel away a lot easier. So basically, those tricky underneath surfaces of your prints will look nicer and have a higher chance of printing successfully. Another thing they altered was the fan speed optimization. And this one's kind of interesting. Even though I've never had any of these issues, I could totally see how this could be beneficial. To help with cooling in critical moments, the software will now ramp up your printer's fan a little bit before it reaches the section that it actually needs cooling, like the sharp edges of an overhang or those fine details. So by the time the printer gets to those little areas, the fan is already at full speed. And the benefit is basically you get better print quality on those delicate overhang parts, since they're already cooling by the time they're needed to be cooled. Because basically the old way is the fan would kick on right when it got to that spot, but there would be a time where the fan is ramping up to full speed and it would already be past the area that it needed to cool down. So this is basically allowing the fan to ramp up to full speed by the time it actually needs to be cooling something. And the real benefit here is you're going to get better print quality on those delicate overhangs and parts, since they're going to be cooling right when they need to be cooled. And this also can help prevent sagging and blobs when you get on those undersides. So this next one is kind of funny, is we've got new infill patterns. We've got zigzag and cross zag. And honestly, I thought these were already in here because of other slicers have these. I don't use them very often, but if you're a person that loves zigzag or cross zag when it comes to like Cura and these other slicers, now it's in Bambu Studio, so you can use it. Now, it's just giving you more choices when it comes to the infills. Are these faster? I don't know yet. I've got to do some more testing, and I'm wanting to do a test on all the infills to see what's the fastest. Okay, this next one is probably my second favorite in all of these updates, and this is the new camera navigation tool. I absolutely love this thing in Orca Slicer, and they finally just took it over and brought it over here too. And even in the release notes, they thanked Orca Slicer and the developer that did this. So this is exactly like it is in Orca Slicer, and if you're not familiar, this allows you to move around your camera on this little cube. You can click and drag, and you can even click on different areas, and it will snap and jump to those different areas for you. Now, this is something that has been needed in Bambu Studio since its inception, because I hate using those commands, as in the control 1, 2, 3, 4, to get those different views, because I have always forgotten which number is what view. And now I can just come over here, click the left view, and I know I'm on the left view, or click and drag and move around. And when you have one object selected on your build plate, you can see this little icon down here right beside the gizmo, and if you click that, it will automatically jump to that object on your screen and center it right there. This is really nice, especially once you have a ton of different objects on your screen at once or your build plate. It's going to be very handy, and this is going to speed up a lot of people's workflows because, when they got this and I got this update, I almost jumped up and down in my seat because I can't tell you how much I love this little gizmo right here. All right, so moving on, they have the new auto flush optimization for multicolor or multi-material printing. Flushing, which is, if you're not familiar with, it's cleaning out the old filament before a color change. So when it's creating that poop, that's a flush. And this is always needed, and Bambu Studio 2.0 improved the auto flushing feature. So if you enable it, the software will automatically calculate how much old material to be flushed out when switching colors. So if you don't have it set manually, this ensures cleaner color transitions, and it saves you from wasting too much filament or time on unnecessary purges. And what this really is it's helping you with that flush. So if you've ever printed something white and then you've got some a red highlight in there for your multicolor print, this is going to flush out all of that red, so when you're printing white, you don't see that little slight bit of pink in there. And that's what it says. I haven't done any multicolor prints with this yet to really test this out, but if you guys test it out, let me know if it actually works. Okay, so this next one is pretty nice, and I can see print farms really enjoying this feature to be able to see it now, and that is the time-lapse and flush time in estimates. And what this basically is this is now giving all of the time breakdowns for if you're doing a time lapse, because I know a lot of you like to do those time lapses of hey, here's the video of my 3D printer printing something out. And then the more important one for me is not the time lapses. I really am more focused on the flush times. This is where I could see for 3D print farms and stuff like that, really looking at this of okay, can I optimize my print in a certain way to where I can cut down more on time? And the flush time is one of the biggest wastes. So this is breaking it down and showing you how long the flushes are actually going to take. And it's astounding to me when I'm actually looking at this stuff and it's oh wow, so I'm actually flushing more than I'm 3D printing for this actual print, and that's half of my time. So it really makes you look at things and be well, maybe I should just print in one color and then print multi-parts. So I think this is going to be a really cool feature, and I'm looking forward to really experimenting with this so I can try to beat my own records of if I can make my flush times even shorter. And that also kind of comes back to those auto flush optimizations on the last thing I was talking about. So these two kind of going together it could be really helpful, and we'll see if it really does cut down time. So if you work in a 3D program and you export out your STLs, you know what? Maybe OBJs are the way to go now because of the importing feature that they just updated. So when you're importing 3D models with an OBJ format, it's a lot smoother. And now Bambu Studio can bring this in without a hitch. It's friendlier, more powerful experience, and it's just, oh man, I'm really looking forward to this. So here is just a quick example because I'm so excited about this, because I made this little model in Tinkercad with different colors. And instead of exporting an STL, I just exported an OBJ file. Now there is this import window that you can see different camera views of the model to preview the model, and it can handle up to 32 colors. And I can easily select the colors of filament I want each color to be, and then boom, done. Look at this. I tell you what, I'm going to say thank you, Bambu Labs, for this add-on, because I didn't even know I wanted this. because now when I'm dealing with Tinkercad or any other 3D printing files that I make, I can just color them however I want to save me time and not have to color my 3D prints inside Bambu Studio anymore. So this next feature definitely is not as exciting as the last one, but it's worth mentioning, and that is lay-on face improvements. So the lay-on face tool, if you're not familiar, helps you automatically set your model on the build plate in the easiest way to get the most out of your surface on the very first layer. Now, in the previous version, there was just kind of this weird blobby shapes that showed up everywhere, and you can click on one of those and it would align that to the build plate and lay it flat right there. Now, you can select specific triangles on your model, and if you're not familiar, all 3D models are made up of triangles and with polygons. And we are now able to come up here, and when you click over on triangular facet, you can click on that, and now you can just select a different one, and then it'll lay it to that face. So if you need it to lay to a specific, triangle facet, you can. In my opinion, I think the convex hull, as they call it, I think that is a better feature. But I'm sure somebody out there is going to be like, oh, wow, this is going to be really nice for this specific one use case. But I can't think of any at the moment. But if you can think of something that it's really useful for, let me know. I'd be kind of curious. But, it's an ad nonetheless. So the next thing is fixed slope bulge issues. Now, I know a lot of us have seen these issues, and they've got like an example on the wiki. And you can see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this, but some prints with angles or sloped walls have had a problem with the surface where it will bulge out or you get this wavy looking texture. And the new update addresses that by optimizing how those sections are printed. The big takeaway here is if you're printing something with a gradual slope or curved wall, it should now more closely match the intended shape without the odd puffy bulge like thing in the middle. It always looked like wavy lines to me. So I'm really wanting to go find some of those older models that I printed where I got this and print them again to see if it removes it. Now, this next one is the interlocking beams for multicolor prints. And I know this is something that a lot of the other slicers have had in their settings for a little while now, and it looks like Bambu Lab is catching up. So basically what this is if you print in multiple colors or materials, and that's really what I think a lot of people will use this for, there is this feature that adds these tiny interlocking structures between the different colored sections. Think of it as like a puzzle piece when the colors meet, and they slot into each other and hold tight. Now, where this really helps is when you have different parts and there are different materials, and you can get a better attachment to those materials. So those two tones or multi-material projects will literally stick together more strongly now. But I know I have never really used this in the other slicers because I don't mix materials hardly ever. But this can be very beneficial for those of you that do. So that is all the highlights for Bambu Studio 2.0. And like I said in the beginning, there are other things that have been altered in this software. I'm just kind of going through all of the top highlights. So if there's something in here that I missed that you really want to learn more about, or something that you've discovered, let me know. I'd love to hear in the comments below. And that's it. As always, I wish you a great day, and I'll go ahead and see you over here in this video.